Do you think a princess's life is as perfect as in a fairy tale? Let's look back at the tragic life of Princess Anne, the only daughter of Queen Elizabeth II, and you will change your view about it. Although Anne was always aware that she had to strive to contribute to the royal family, the harsh reality many times caused her to fall into despair. Her horrifying experiences in royal life led Anne to later attempt to pull her children out of it. Just look back at the little-known tragedies that Princess Anne had to go through. Let's start. There is a truth that becoming a princess may be the dream of many people, but for Anne it was a thorn in her side. Princess Anne's perspective on royal life has been markedly different from some of her peers within the monarchy. "I didn't ask to be born a princess," Anne once exclaimed in response to the expectations placed upon her as a member of the royal family, as noted by Great British Life. This statement encapsulates her straightforward approach to her position, highlighting her belief that her royal birth was not a personal choice. Growing up in an era before social media dominated public perception, Anne still faced intense public scrutiny. The spotlight was on her, whether she liked it or not, and this scrutiny was magnified during public engagements such as royal walkabouts, where she was expected to interact with crowds. Anne openly expressed her dislike for these events, particularly during her teenage years. In the BBC documentary, The Queen, Her Commonwealth Story, she reflected on these experiences saying, "We hated them. Can you imagine as teenagers? Hardly the sort of thing you would volunteer to do. How many people enjoy walking into a room full of people you've never met before and then try and have a conversation?" Via hello. Despite the challenges of royal life, Anne found solace and enjoyment in her time spent at school. Boarding school, such as her education at Benenden School, provided her with a sense of normalcy and freedom from the constant public gaze. Although everyone was aware of her royal status, Anne appreciated being treated like any other student. "I enjoyed the informality of it all," she shared, relishing the opportunity to simply be herself away from the formalities and protocols of royal duties. Anne's attitude toward her royal role reflects her pragmatism and independence of spirit. While respecting her duties and obligations as a member of the royal family, she has always valued authenticity and the opportunity to carve out moments of privacy and personal identity amid the expectations of royalty. Princess Anne's position in the line of succession to the British throne has been influenced by centuries-old traditions and legal principles governing royal inheritance. Anne entered the world as third in line to the throne, after her mother, Princess Elizabeth, later Queen Elizabeth II, and her elder brother, Prince Charles. This status reflected the prevailing rule of male preference primogeniture, which prioritized male heirs over their older sisters. However, as history unfolded, Anne's place in the line of succession shifted dramatically with the births of her younger brothers, Prince Andrew in 1960 and Prince Edward in 1964. According to the rules of male preference primogeniture, each of her brothers and their descendants superseded Anne in the line to the throne, pushing her further down as they themselves had children. The persistence of this archaic and patriarchal rule meant that even though Anne was a dedicated and active member of the royal family, her position remained distant from the throne compared to her male relatives. Despite calls for reform over the years, it wasn't until the succession to the Crown Act of 2013 that significant changes were made. This legislation abolished male preference primogeniture for future heirs to the throne born after October 28, 2011, ensuring that succession would be determined strictly by birth order rather than gender. While the 2013 Act marked a progressive step towards gender equality in the monarchy, its application was not retroactive. Consequently, Anne's position in the line of succession, now 16th as of the latest updates, remains behind her younger brothers and their descendants. For instance, Prince Andrew's daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, as well as their children, are all ahead of Anne despite being younger in age. Had the Succession to the Crown Act been enacted earlier, Anne would have been much higher in the order of succession. For instance, she would have been ninth, just after Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's daughter, Lilibet Diana Mountbatten-Windsor, born in 2021. Although she didn't have much of a reputation, Anne was once considered rude. Her early life in the public eye was marked by challenges and misunderstandings, despite her privileged upbringing within the British royal family. Born into wealth and position, Anne faced the scrutiny of the media from a young age, often highlighting the less glamorous aspects of royal life that were not widely understood or appreciated by the public. Anne's reluctance towards the demands of public life, particularly her disdain for media attention, earned her a reputation that was less than flattering in the press. Instead of sympathy, her expressions of frustration and impatience were met with criticism and harsh judgment. According to royal biographer Sally Bedell Smith's Elizabeth the Queen, The Life of a Modern Monarch, Anne gained the moniker Her Royal Rudeness during her 20s, reflecting her direct and sometimes confrontational interactions with journalists. One infamous incident involved Anne reportedly telling reporters to naff off, an outburst that further cemented her reputation for bluntness and impatience with media intrusion. Even American reporters during Anne's visits to the United States in the 1970s remarked on her perceived demeanor. Journalist Joy Billington, as noted in the documentary The Real Princess Anne, via Express, described her as very bad-tempered and very sulky during those trips, further contributing to her image as a royal who did not conform to traditional expectations of graciousness and composure. In contrast to her brother, Prince Charles, who often engaged more willingly with the press and public appearances, Anne's preference for privacy and directness was seen as a sharp departure from royal norms. Royal biographer Kitty Kelly in The Royals described Anne as appearing selfish and arrogant in the eyes of some observers, particularly due to her straightforward manner and occasional brusque responses to photographers and journalists alike. Behind these public perceptions, however, Anne's actions were often driven by a desire for authenticity and a wish to maintain boundaries amidst relentless media scrutiny. There is a hidden reason in Anne's past that makes her hate being part of the royal family, which is that she was almost kidnapped at gunpoint. The event unfolded after Anne had attended a charity event and was returning home in her limousine. As recounted by Smithsonian Magazine, an armed man approached the vehicle and shot her bodyguard in the shoulder in an attempt to gain access to Anne. Despite the danger and chaos, Anne exhibited remarkable composure and defiance. Refusing to comply with the assailant's demands, she adamantly stayed inside the car, repeatedly asserting her refusal to leave. In her own words, Anne recalled the incident, expressing her frustration. "It was all so infuriating. I kept saying I didn't want to get out of the car and I was not going to get out of the car," as reported by BBC News. Anne's steadfast refusal to cooperate with the kidnapper showcased her determination and quick thinking under extreme pressure. In a candid revelation, Princess Anne disclosed that she even considered physically confronting the would-be kidnapper, but refrained from doing so upon realizing he was armed. Her willingness to confront danger head-on and her instinctive refusal to be intimidated underscored her fearless demeanor in the face of adversity. The assailant was eventually apprehended by law enforcement authorities and subsequently committed to a mental health facility, highlighting the serious nature of the incident. Princess Anne's handling of the kidnapping attempt earned her widespread admiration for her courage and fortitude, reinforcing her reputation as a royal who could face and overcome challenges with remarkable resolve. Experiencing these scary memories made Princess Anne not want her child to have a royal title. Princess Anne's life, while filled with privilege and duty as a member of the British royal family, has also been marked by moments of personal challenge and reflection. Throughout her journey, Anne has demonstrated a pragmatic and forward-thinking approach, particularly when it comes to the upbringing of her children, Peter Phillips and Zara Tyndall. From the outset, Anne and her first husband, Mark Phillips, made a deliberate choice not to bestow royal titles upon their children. This decision stemmed from Anne's belief that a life without titles might afford her children more freedom and a less encumbered path in life. Although as the children of a female heir, Peter and Zara were not automatically entitled to princely or princess titles, Queen Elizabeth II did extend the offer to style them as such. However, Anne and Mark declined this offer, opting instead for a more grounded upbringing outside the strictures of royal titles. In her 2020 statement to Vanity Fair, Anne reflected on this decision, suggesting that foregoing titles was a deliberate choice aimed at providing her children with a more normal upbringing. "I think it was probably easier for them, and I think most people would argue that there are downsides to having titles," Anne remarked, hinting at her belief that avoiding titles could shield her children from some of the pressures and expectations that accompany royal status. Zara Tyndall, in an interview with The Times in 2015, echoed her mother's sentiments, expressing gratitude for the decision. "I'm very lucky that both my parents decided to not use the title, and we grew up and did all the things that gave us the opportunity to do," she stated, highlighting how this choice allowed her and her brother to pursue their own paths and careers without the constant spotlight of royal status. Princess Anne's approach to parenting reflects her practicality and a desire to provide her children with a sense of normalcy amidst the privileges of their royal lineage. By opting for a life without titles for Peter and Zara, Anne aimed to give them the freedom to carve out their own identities and pursue their interests without the weight of royal expectations. It's a heartbreaking truth that despite her dedication to the royal family, Princess Anne was overlooked for most of her life. She faced hurdles and uncertainties, but she gradually carved out a reputation as one of the hardest-working members of the royal family. Her dedication to duty and service became evident as she undertook numerous engagements and represented the monarchy both domestically and internationally. Despite her sterling work ethic, Anne often found herself overshadowed by other members of the royal family, particularly in media portrayals and public attention. The backdrop of Anne's life was set against a period of prevalent sexism, which permeated societal norms and expectations. The women's liberation movement in the UK didn't gain momentum until 1970, underscoring the challenges Anne faced in navigating a traditional royal role amidst evolving societal attitudes towards gender equality. Even in modern times, Anne's contributions and accomplishments have sometimes been overlooked or understated. The Netflix drama The Crown, which chronicles Queen Elizabeth II's reign, has notably glossed over many aspects of Anne's life, including her brave defiance during the attempted kidnapping, reducing her character to a supporting role. This portrayal belies Anne's true impact and significance within the royal family and beyond. Royal experts, however, recognize Anne's substantial influence and contributions. Clive Irving emphasized in an interview with Express that Anne is one of the most quietly effective and influential members of the royal family, citing her significant influence on Queen Elizabeth II and her extensive charitable work. Despite her modest public profile compared to other royals, Anne's dedication to causes such as youth development, equestrian sports, and charitable organizations has earned her respect and admiration. Besides her royal obsessions, a number of other tragedies happened to Anne, making her life even more tragic. First, an accident nearly ruined her Olympic dreams. Princess Anne's passion for equestrianism provided a stark contrast to her discomfort with the public aspects of royal life, offering her a sense of fulfillment and accomplishment outside the confines of her royal duties. From a young age, Anne shared this love for horses with her mother, Queen Elizabeth II, forming a deep bond over their shared hobby. According to royal historian Robert Lacey, their mutual passion helped bridge the generation gap and strengthen their relationship during Anne's teenage years, providing her with a sanctuary away from the relentless scrutiny of royal life. Anne's natural talent for riding became evident early on. During her school years, she actively participated in equestrian competitions, demonstrating her skill and dedication. After completing her education, she pursued further training under professional coaches, honing her abilities in competitive riding. Despite efforts to keep her burgeoning equestrian career relatively private initially, Anne's exceptional performances on the riding circuit soon attracted widespread attention. The turning point came in 1971 when Anne achieved notable success at prestigious events such as the Russell Horse Trials and the European Eventing Championships. Her outstanding performance at the latter, where she clinched the European gold medal, catapulted her into the spotlight. Anne's achievements were further recognized when she was named BBC's Sports Personality of the Year, underscoring her rising stature in the equestrian world and beyond. Anne's aspirations extended to competing in the Olympics, aiming to represent Great Britain on the international stage. However, her path to Olympic glory was fraught with setbacks. In 1972, her horse Doublé suffered a tendon injury, dashing her hopes of participating in the Munich Olympics that year. Undeterred, Anne persevered and set her sights on the 1976 Olympics in Montreal. Tragically, a serious fall during a competition left her hospitalized with a concussion and a fractured vertebra, casting doubt on her ability to recover in time for the Olympic trials. Fortunately, Anne's injuries turned out to be less severe than initially feared, with doctors optimistic about her recovery. According to the New York Times, she received encouraging news that she would be able to resume riding in time to compete for a spot in the Olympic team. This resilience and determination underscored Anne's commitment to her equestrian career, showcasing her tenacity in the face of adversity. Next, Princess Anne's participation in the 1976 Olympics marked a historic moment as she became the first British royal to compete in the Games. Her journey to Montreal, however, was marred by both the challenges of recovering from a serious injury and the heartbreaking outcome of her Olympic debut. Anne's road to the Olympics that year was fraught with adversity. Despite a previous fall that left her hospitalized with a concussion and a fractured vertebra, she showed remarkable resilience and determination to rehabilitate in time for the Olympic trials. Making the British team was a testament to her tenacity and dedication to her sport. Arriving in Montreal, Anne faced the demanding competition of the eventing discipline, which combines dressage, cross-country, and show jumping. However, tragedy struck during her eventing competition when she suffered another fall. This incident resulted in temporary memory loss for Anne, erasing her recollection of the competition beyond a certain point. In interviews, Anne candidly admitted, "I was going very well and then I don't remember anything else. Nothing at all," as reported by Express. This memory loss deprived her of recalling the significance of her participation in the Olympic Games, relying instead on accounts from those around her to piece together the events following her fall. Jane Holderness Rodham, Anne's lady-in-waiting, confirmed in the documentary Anne the Princess Royal at 70 that the memory loss persisted, preventing Anne from fully recollecting her Olympic experience. Despite the challenges, Anne demonstrated her unwavering determination by remounting her horse and completing the competition, showcasing her resilience under pressure. Anne's performance in Montreal ultimately placed her 24th overall in the eventing competition, as reported by Pop Sugar. While she did not achieve a medal, her participation as a member of the British Olympic team was a significant milestone, highlighting her commitment to her equestrian career and her willingness to represent her country on the world stage. You may not know that Princess Anne's first marriage ended in scandal. Princess Anne's romantic journey has indeed been eventful, characterized by highs and lows that have played out against the backdrop of royal scrutiny and media attention. Prior to her marriage to Captain Mark Phillips in 1973, Anne experienced several notable relationships, including one with Andrew Parker Bowles, who later married and divorced her future sister-in-law, Camilla Parker Bowles, now the Duchess of Cornwall. Anne's marriage to Mark Phillips initially seemed to align with her passion for equestrianism, as he shared her talent and enthusiasm for horse riding. Phillips had achieved significant success in the sport, winning team gold at the 1972 Munich Olympics, further solidifying their shared interests. The couple welcomed 2 children, Zara Tyndall, née Phillips, and Peter Phillips, into their family. However, despite their initial bond, Anne and Mark's marriage faced challenges that became increasingly public. Rumors of infidelity circulated around both parties, with Anne notably linked to her personal bodyguard, Peter Cross. Although Anne never confirmed the relationship, the press reported extensively on Cross allegedly selling details of their supposed affair for a substantial sum in 1984, highlighting the intense media interest in the royal couple's private lives. The year 1992 proved tumultuous for the British royal family, earning the moniker Annus Horribilis for Queen Elizabeth II due to a series of scandals and crises. Anne's marriage to Mark Phillips ended in divorce during this turbulent period, marking a significant personal and public transition. The divorce coincided with other high-profile separations within the royal family, including Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, as well as the formal separation of Prince Charles and Princess Diana. In the aftermath of her divorce, Anne found solace in a new relationship with Sir Timothy Lawrence, whom she had known from their shared naval careers. The couple eloped later in 1992, choosing a private ceremony that underscored Anne's desire for a more discreet personal life away from the spotlight of royal obligations and media attention. Another tragedy that is said to have negatively impacted Princess Anne was the death of her father. The passing of Prince Philip in 2021 marked a profound loss for Princess Anne and the entire British royal family, despite the inevitability of his passing due to his advanced age. Anne's grief was palpable and deeply felt as she reflected on the impact her father had on her life and her role within the royal family. In a heartfelt statement shared on the royal family's Instagram account, Anne expressed her devastation, acknowledging that while his death was expected, the emotional impact was profound. "You know it's going to happen, but you are never really ready," she remarked, encapsulating the universal sentiment of loss shared by many who have experienced the passing of a loved one. Prince Philip played multiple roles in Anne's life. He was her teacher, supporter, and sometimes critic. Anne highlighted his influence on her, emphasizing that it was his example of a life dedicated to service that she most aspired to emulate. His commitment to duty and his unwavering support for the monarchy left an indelible mark on Anne, shaping her own approach to public service and responsibility. During Prince Philip's funeral, Anne made a poignant gesture that broke from tradition. In a rare move for royal women, she walked behind her father's casket during the funeral procession, a task typically reserved for male members of the royal family. This act underscored Anne's deep respect and love for her father, emphasizing their close bond and the significance of his role in her life. Following the funeral proceedings, Anne continued to honor Prince Philip's memory by personally acknowledging those who had offered condolences. According to Pure Wow, she sent personalized notes adorned with her monogram, conveying her gratitude for their sympathy and extending her best wishes for the future. This gesture reflected Anne's thoughtful and personal approach to acknowledging the outpouring of support during a difficult time for her family. What do you think about the life that Princess Anne calls tragic? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.